Good morning, all. I am Dr. Anand, Associate Professor in the Department of Information Technology from KCG College of Technology. I would like to invite our chief guest, Mr. Prasad. Welcome, Mr. Prasad.
Yes,
Uh,
hello. Yes.
Yes, actually, he is working as a software architecture in medicine solution. He has 16 years experience in the field of IT industry, 4 years in the data science and architect. He has a lot of he has doing done on lot of roles in IT industry as well as research. He has designed, develop, and provide software solution and technical governance and support development team, evaluate and recommended tools, ensure quality and security technologies in the different process of softwares, and he has collaborate with peer organization. Actually, he has completed artificial intelligence and machine learning in the Great Learning Institute of Management, Chennai. He has a lot of real-time experience in the field of AI and machine learning. Once again, I welcome our chief guest and also I welcome our participant. I over to session, Mr. Prasad.
Yeah. Thank you, Anand. Thanks for the brief introduction about me. And before that, good morning, everyone. So yeah, so let's get started. Yeah. So as Anand told, I have experience with artificial intelligence and machine learning, and not only with that, I have exposure to software design and development, okay, and architecting some of the system and software governance, everything. So even I do product evaluation. So for the organization, whichever it suits for the requirement accordingly. So okay, then yeah, let's get started. So today we are going to, as everyone know, we are going to have this session for artificial intelligence and cyber security and their opportunities and challenges in the industry. Okay. Without any delay, let's go to the abstract. Yeah. So cybersecurity become very crucial part of information technology. Yes. Yeah. So whenever any business, let's say if you are starting any business, then what happens is the business will need some resources. Obviously, the technical resources. Okay. Let's say you have. I mean, at least the business should have a building computer, and for building computer, there should be a software, and for software, there should be a data behind that. So not only, like, whatever I told is for a small business, okay? Even if you consider a very large business, okay? So you cannot imagine the data and the resources in way of a software, hardware, or data, whatever it is, okay? So day by day, these resources are increasing, okay? Then the security for them also increases, okay? So we have to make sure these things are secured enough, okay, for the organization in two different, in several ways. I will tell two different things here. Either, let's say I have a data that has been corrupted somehow by some malware function. Okay, then business needs some time to recover the, get back to its original position. So that takes some time. Let's say 1 or 2 days. That will be a big impact with the business. Okay, and the next thing will be the compliances. Okay, every software industry should follow compliance according to the clients they have. Okay, either it may be banking or it may be healthcare, whatever it is. They have to comply to some regulations. Okay, so for them, they have to implement the cyber security. So these are the two important factors that I mentioned, like to mention here. Okay, and we'll also check the techniques, AI techniques, and to detect the cyber security and act accordingly. And we will see the challenges also. Okay, and let's go to the next slide. So here is the agenda. Okay, the introduction to AI and history of it. Then we'll have a cognitive system. Very important thing here is a very important industry which plays a major role here is cognitive system and pattern recognition and machine learning. It has several categories: supervised and unsupervised learning. And a pipeline, we used to say how we streamline the entire process. Okay, so that is machine learning pipeline. Then we come to the cyber security and what it does and principle of them and challenges behind that. Okay, and we'll have then we'll come to the opportunities. Opportunities in the sense, what are the places we'll have this AI, okay, to deal with cyber security. And so once again, we will also discuss the challenges and what are the other techniques with that, and we'll see some of the network related attacks. Okay, and yeah, network related attacks and how the AI is going to play with that. Okay, and we will have some small sample data. Okay, and with that we will see how the machine learning algorithms, logistic regression, supervised, support vector machine and decision trees. We will also have a quick look on deep learning, computer vision, and natural language processing as add-on with this. Okay, and yeah, that's all about it. So we'll go ahead and see the next topic. Okay, so introduction to AI here. Yeah, so because in general the definition varies to person. Okay, so here I have extracted some sentence that is meaningful to the AI. Okay, artificial intelligence is a combination of information technology, psychology, intelligence, which can be computationally used to reach code. Okay, so artificial intelligence try to gain some knowledge with the historical data. Okay, which obviously gets some intelligence. Okay, and combination of with simply the intelligence, it's not easy to achieve the things. Okay, let's say either for cyber security, for other purpose. Okay, whatever it is. Okay, without the technology, we will not be doing anything with that with artificial intelligence. So technology here, it comes to the programming languages and servers, okay, and other resources, okay, and frameworks, everything. Okay, yeah. So AI can be machine behave like human. Yeah, as I told, so it should behave like a human. Then only it can gain the intelligence. Okay, main concept behind the artificial intelligence is, I'm sure about the human is foremost. Human has a better, excellent intelligence. Nobody, there is no such technology still that that leads the human intelligence. Okay, artificial intelligence is intelligent, but what happens is it may be faster than the human intelligence, but still, days to go or decades to go to bring the artificial intelligence that behaves better than human. So let me take an example quickly. If you go and let's say a person traveling in the bus very first time. Okay, so what happens is he will feel some people may feel vomiting. Okay, what happens is whenever you walk on a road or walk on a pathway, what happens is you look at, let's say I'm walking in front of Anand. Okay, I can see Anand and recognize he is Anand. Okay, and I will take the frames of Anand and send it to my brain. What happens is my brain just process the image and let me know about the he is Anand. Okay, you know him already, so there is no threat. Okay, now what happens when a person travels inside a bus? Okay, he will have the surroundings running very fast. Let's say I'm traveling at the speed of 60 kilometers, and I will see the grasslands. I will see some other objects and some other vehicles running aside, beside. So my eye will capture these images very fastly and send it to my brain. Okay, what brain thinks is, okay, this is something anomaly. Okay, and it thinks that something goes bad. Okay, something goes wrong. Okay, and it tells, it will stimulate the stomach, because stomach is the first thing which digest the food and extract the vitamins and minerals, everything out of it, and um, um, I mean and mix that with the blood actually. So the brain thinks that we have to get the food out of the stomach immediately. So that's why we makes the feel of vomiting. Okay, whenever the person travels in a bus very first time. So what happens when the person goes for the next time or upcoming times? Let's say he's traveling more than 10 times. Okay, then the brain learns it. Okay, so he is traveling in a bus, there is no threat, because the images will, when he is traveling in the bus, the images will be very fast and it will be um, forward to the brain very quickly, and there is no doubt. Okay, it is normal. So then it will not do anything with the person. Okay, That is how the artificial intelligence learns the things. Okay, whenever there is a whenever there is no historical data, it will not behave better. Okay, when going forward, it learns the historical data, okay, and gets the learns the things out of it and recognize the pattern inside it, and it can predict and it can recognize something in front of the particular resources. Okay, so that is how the artificial intelligence will learn. But I mean, so far I have what I have explained, you come to know the human is still better than AI. Okay, still far better than AI. Okay, AI need few more decades or few more years, okay, to become better. Okay, but still it will be very harder to to lead the human brain. Okay, so that is how it comes. And yeah, so human thinking, it can mimic the human thinking, yeah, as I told. And to perform the tasks, different methods such as evidence-based methods, natural language processing, text mining. Yeah, text mining is not a part of artificial intelligence. Mining is in the sense extracting the relevant data or reasonable data. Okay, that is useful for the prediction. Okay, there are prescriptive analytics. Okay, these are the analytics that can be taken in the control when there is a prediction happen. Okay, then we have to take the action accordingly. So prescriptive analytics is the analytics which can be handled after the prediction. Okay, and there are recommendation systems. Recommendation systems, they will be mostly used in the e-commerce field or in a supermarkets. You can recommend some products to the customer, something like that. So recommendation system and computer visioning, I don't know how they can be related with the cyber security, but for your understanding, for your knowledge, it should be there in the slide. So that is the thing. So let's go to the next slide. And before, if you look at the image, okay, the artificial intelligence, I mean, for everything, the data science will be the core part. I mean, ultimately the data. Okay, then data science will be a part of machine learning, artificial intelligence, and deep learning altogether. Okay, and artificial intelligence is they have very high level, so it will be composed of machine learning or deep learning. Okay, that is how it comes. So AI is a very high level term. Okay, whenever we try to approach AI, either we have to approach machine learning or deep learning with the core part of data science. Okay, here is a little history. I mean, there are several history. So I pulled up very important historical things happened with AI. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So the first thing is Warren McCullough. What he done is, okay, he has found the artificial neurons. So neurons. What neurons is? You might have somebody familiar with biology. Okay, they might have known about neurons. Even everyone, basically, we know about neurons. What neuron is? It is composed of a single unit that can be connected with multiple neurons. Okay, so artificially, the neurons will be here. It's a mathematical function. Okay, obviously, it will be a machine learning function. Okay, so in 1943, Warren McCullough is the one who found the artificial neuron. It will come, the neuron will contain some mathematical calculation, function inside it that will do some predictions, okay, and that which in turn the output will be passed to the other neurons. That is how it comes. Simply it's part of a deep learning. In the upcoming slide, we will try to understand the neural networks and the deep learning. Okay. So next history is logic theorist. Okay, so it has solved the mathematical theorems. Okay, that is a very great thing achieved in 1955. So even out of 52 theorems, it has solved 38. So that is a very big thing. That is a very good evolution here. Okay, and next thing here is ELIZA. Okay, so it's the one which can solve the mathematical problem. It's more or less related to the previous history. Okay, but it can solve the problem instead of solving the theorem. Okay, so there is some rule-based thing here. Okay, the background is I cannot say it will be a rule-based. It will be a intelligence-based. Okay, it will be rule-based. Okay, rule-based is one kind of intelligence. Finally, okay, it will be a rule-based approach to solve particular mathematical problem. Okay, and we will try to understand when we discuss about decision tree, okay, in the upcoming slide. Now, AI come back with expert system. System, okay, in 1980, we got the expert system. It can answer a person, okay, with some expertise. Okay, let's say you go and ask for a diagnosis. Okay, let's say you have a fever and cough and cold. Okay, if you let the system know about what are the symptoms you have, okay, then it will tell you something that you have this fever. You can take this medication, something like that. So this expert system will have some rule-based system inside it with some knowledge, okay, so that it can give some suggestion to you according to your symptoms input. So that is how it makes, and you can see here the expert system were programmed to emulate decision-making ability of a human expert. Decision-making is once again a part of there is they might have role. Um, designed some rules behind the expert system. Okay. Then IBM Deep Blue Beats. Okay, it's once again very important thing in the history. It has beaten the chess champion, world chess champion. Okay, that's a very great thing here. And 2011. So now IBM Watson is very global thing. Everyone would have known about that. So it's once again a kind of expert system. Okay, it can understand the human language or human inputs, whatever the inputs that you give, and it can provide some suggestions. It can answer you accordingly. Okay, so there might be several things behind the IBM Watson, the NLP, deep learning, whatever it is, computer vision, everything. Okay, so we cannot comment on that. What are the architecture behind it? But IBM Watson is one of the intelligent system in 2011. Okay, now there are several systems, but notably 2011 IBM Watson is a great one. Okay, and yeah, they are providing this IBM Watson as an API. Okay, through the API, you can include the API in your own application. Okay, and do some sentiment analysis on the user inputs. Okay, and there are several things. Okay, so it cannot be a limited thing. Okay, so IBM Watson is the one which is a great thing achieved in 2011. Then we'll go to the next slide. Yeah, so cognitive system and expert system. Okay, once again, cognitive system. Before I like to tell you cognitive, what is cognitive system is. Okay, let's say I have a automation project. Okay, I have a project. I like to automate. Okay, let's say I have a project for patient eligibility verification. Okay, what it does is it gets the patient input, and it will check for the eligibility verification with the insurance company. Okay, what happens is this can be done 5 days in a month, only for 5 days in a month, but the company has to acquire an employee to automate, to do this particular action, a particular process for 5 days only. So remaining 20 days, the person, the employee will be idle. So there comes the robotic process automation. Robotic process automation is not the AI. Okay, like to put in front of you, it's not the AI. Okay, robotic process automation is the technology that mimics the user action. Whatever the action you try to teach the system, it will do the action simply, either keying in or clicking on the button, whatever it is. Okay, now so I don't want the person to be deployed to do this process. So there comes the RPA. I will use the RPA and do some automation with that, and makes my program to click on a particular button and get the patient input, key in the values, and check the patient eligibility with the insurance web portal. Okay. Now what happens is sometimes, okay, this application will be hosted on the remote application. You know, in remote application, our OS will not be able to identify the buttons and controls over it. Okay, so it has to learn everything as an image. So there comes the cognitive system. It will identify each and every controls on the image. Okay, on the image in the sense either remote desktop or Citrix, whatever it is. Okay, so it has to learn the images and controls and text, extract the text from the image, everything. So it has some intelligence over it. Okay, so once again, it's an expert system will be the part of a cognitive system. Okay, so it will have some here user interface will not be encountered, but for example, I have included user interface. So inference engine, it will have some rule based inside it. The cognitive system will have some rules inside it. Okay, and it will predict some, either it's a button or it's a text box, it's a drop down, or the text that we have extracted will have some accuracy. And let's say man, I have if you have a woman in the as a text, but it can extract as a woman. Okay, so something like that. There will be wrong text extraction over there. So cognitive system is the one which will identify the wrong text and it can correct to some percentage. Okay, there comes the cognitive system. Cognitive system mostly plays a major role with the robotic process automation. So I'm not sure how much this cognitive system will be there with the cyber security, but for better understanding and knowledge, I have to tell this as a very important thing. Okay, then yeah. So Anand, I like to know people have any doubts so far. I'm going with a normal speed or I'm very fast.
Parents, if you, sorry, participants, if you have any queries, you can ask meanwhile.
Yeah, you can stop me anywhere if you have doubts. Not at all. Okay. Okay. I'm moving on to next slide, assuming that you have no doubts. Okay. Pattern recognition approach. Once again, when we discuss about machine learning, okay, we will try to understand what is pattern recognition and what are the classification algorithm behind that. Okay. Pattern recognition is something like, let's say you have a data. Okay. I like to plot because simply on let's say you have the data in the CSV file or Excel file. Simply by looking at the data, you cannot understand the pattern. Let's say if that is a very small data, let's say some 100 records or 200 records, it will be very easy for the human to understand it. So when the data is going larger, it is in large manner. Okay, what happened is we have to have some technology behind that. So we have some plotting technology with, I mean, let's take Python as the framework. There we have the matplotlib as the how can I say, it's a plotting framework. You can use that framework to plot the diagrams, and there are several other tools. I'm talking about the API or framework here, but you will go and buy a tool which can get the data simply from you, and it can plot the data accordingly. Okay, so what this tool will do, okay, it will get all the data, either it may be large, okay, or small. It will plot on the particular graph, okay, with multiple dimensions or 2 dimensions, whatever it is. Okay, it will highlight the things, highlight the data, I mean difference between the data and in what manner they are regressing or what manner they are clustered with each other. Okay, so the very first diagram you can see here is, it's part of a linear combination. Linear combination is a straight line, as everyone know about mathematics. Okay, basic mathematics, I like to tell here is a linear equation. Okay, if you plot the data, you can see that the green and red line traversing towards the left top growth, I mean right top growth, sorry. Okay, so means that the x1 and x2 are directly proportional. Whenever the x2 increases, the x1 increases, the x2 increases. So the pattern behind is the x1 and x2 are directly proportional with each other. Okay, so you can come to know that the linear equation will be sufficient to identify the pattern behind this. So the pattern that you are seeing in the very first image is a linear pattern. Okay, and when you come to the second image, you can see the clusters. Okay, and you can see the clusters inside a cluster. Okay, so let's say I have a customer, I mean banking customers. Okay, I like to plot them on the graph. Okay, what happens is it will identify the relationship between the customers. Let's say I'm the customer. Okay, I'm not paying the credit bills for a long time. Whenever I mean swipe my credit card, from the day I swipe the credit card, I'm taking 45 days delay to pay the actual amount. So bank will identify these customers, and I mean bank will not be able to identify this customer if the data is large. Okay, they will give the data to the some framework or some tool. It will identify the patterns inside it. So not only me, it can group the customers that is similar to me. Okay, they will behave like me. Okay, they will pay the bills later. Okay, and with the delay, with big delay. Okay, it can group the customers, such customers, okay, in a circle. Okay, and it can group these reliable customers in certain groups. Okay, and it can group female customer separately and male customer separately. There are several categories inside it. So whatever the things that you let the tool or framework know, it will group the customers accordingly. So from here, you can learn some pattern behind the data. Okay, with the help of the pattern recognized here, you can come to some conclusion whether how to achieve, how to approach to these customers, how to I mean gain some more customers. Okay, and how to improve the business value. Okay, something like that. So there are several things. Okay, this is a very small example I have explained you. So there are several things. Okay, and yeah, especially I have taken the banking as an example. If you take any other industry, then there will be a large example. I mean, more number of examples, so that it will make you better understanding. Okay. Okay, then we will go for the next. Okay. So yeah, so our important part is machine learning here. Okay, so as I told, machine learning will need to have a historical data. So without history of data, it cannot learn anything. And also one more thing is the history of data. It's not something like all the history of the historical data will be meaningful. Some of the data will not be required. Some of the data will need to be sampled. Okay, sampled in the sense you have let's say 100 records, but you need some more records to be to for the machine learning to predict better. Okay, in that case you will go for a sampling the records. So because either you require you will ask for the business to provide more data, or if there is any there is no data from the business, then you can do some sampling. Even if the sampling doesn't work, then you have to make a note that this particular data will not be used for the better prediction. It can give the accuracy at certain level. Okay, that is how it comes. So the data is always meaningful. Data will be always required, but it's not something like all the data will be relevant. Okay, and one more thing is some data will have more meaningful data. Both meaningful data and non-meaningful data. Okay, you have to categorize them. Okay, and remove the data that is not relevant. So in the field of data science, what we do is we call them as a feature. Okay, so let's say simply you will have the input of the data from the Excel. That's all. So data in the sense you don't need to think in a bigger way, and you don't need no need to create some big image in your brain. Okay, data is simply a data. That's all. So it may be structured or unstructured. Okay, now let's say you have Excel. Okay, Excel, and it has several columns. But what happens is, let's say the banking domain provides me data, and they're asking me to predict who are the defaulters. Okay, who will be the defaulters? So they are going to have a new customers, and they have provided a new customer list to me, and with Excel, I like to predict. I have to predict the customers is reliable or not. So what I do is I get the data from the bank. Okay, I will call all the I will in data science word, as I told, we call them as a features. Okay, in features, every features will not be relevant, as I told. Okay, so you need to remove those features. Okay, which will be part of a data pre-processing. Okay, before machine learning, it's not something like we have to give the data to the machine learning. It will quickly process everything and predict. Okay, there are several steps that have to be considered before the machine learning algorithm. Okay, so that's where the pre-processing comes in. So you remove the features, irrelevant features, and you have the relevant features. And one more thing, important thing here is you will have to check the data is relevant. You can check the data is relevant, but the data need to be normalized. So if you can Google after this session, what is normalized data? Okay, so but you might have known about, because I believe everybody from the mathematical background, basic mathematical background, the normalized curve, if you see, it will be an inverted bell curve. Okay, it will be inverted bell curve. Okay, so whenever you plot the data onto the graph, the data will somehow relate to the pattern. The inverted bell curve. It will create a structure inverted bell curve. Okay, if that is the case, then we will assume that data is very relevant for us. Okay, so that is how it comes. And here there are probability and statistical methodology involved in, but we are not going to discuss this, because that is a very core part of machine learning. If I try to explain you, it will take more time to explain each and every concept. Yeah. Okay. Now the machine learning will be after you come to know the features are relevant, then you will supply to the machine learning. Then it's still we are not done. Okay. After machine learning, giving the data to the machine learning, it will predict something with some accuracy. But by luck, you will have some better accuracy. Okay, because the data is data that you have given to the machine learning is very meaningful and very relevant. Okay, but all the time it will not happen. Okay, we have to go and check, okay, what's the problem with the data, how can we increase the accuracy, okay, how can so there comes the loss function. Okay, that is one more technical thing. I will explain that when we are talking about the machine learning with actual examples. Okay, so now here after you the machine learning is powerful. Okay, it has predicted the values very perfectly. I mean, with better accuracy. No machine learning will predict 100%. Okay, it will have some better accuracy like 80 to 90%. Then you will have that model built and compiled. Then if you will deploy the machine learning model to the production environment, it will be supplied as a service to the people. I mean the customer. Okay, and it is categorized by unsupervised, supervised, and reinforcement learning. So supervised learning is the one. I will have the input. I will also have the labels to it. Let's say the bank is providing the data to me. Okay, and I will have a customer information. Okay, historical customer information with the flag saying that they are defaulters or not. Then only I can predict the new customer data with either it can be he or she can be a defaulter or not. Okay, so those kind of a learning will be part of a supervised learning. Okay, and it is categorical. It is classified as classification and regression. Regression is once again classification. If I explain the classification, then you can understand the regression. Okay, so classification here yeah. So the customer is either defaulter or not. Okay, so it can classify the customers in two different ways. So there are multiple classifications also. Okay, whatever I have explained is so far the binary classification. Binary classification in the sense it is a 0 or 1. Either the customer is defaulter or non defaulter. Okay, and now the regression comes in. Regression I can quickly give an example. Let's say you supply a food to a cow. Okay, you have the farm. Okay, and the quantity that of food that you give to the cow, okay, it will yield the, it will give the better quantity of milk. Okay, so when the food quantity increases at certain level, okay, then cow can produce better milk. The good quality of milk, okay, and good quantity of milk too. Okay, so that is how it comes. Okay, so in this case, if I let the machine learning know about the quantity of food that I'm supplying to the cow, okay, then it can predict that how can a cow, how much of quantity of milk that cow can produce. That's all. Okay, that is how it comes. And if you go on unsupervised learning, so unsupervised learning is the one. Let's say, sorry, I have a business. Let's say medical healthcare business. I will give some patient information. I have a lot of patient information in my database. So what I do is I don't know what to do with my data, because so I'm initiating the artificial intelligence with my company. I don't know what to do with my data. So in that case, I have to go and identify the pattern with the data. Okay, there, previous slide you might have seen that clustering here, right? So one kind of a grouping. So the unsupervised learning will be part of the second image. The second image will be the part of unsupervised learning. Sorry. Okay, and yeah, so you will not have the labeled data. Either the patient has the eligibility or not, something like that. Either the patient will have the diabetic in future or not, something like that. So without knowing the actual label of the data in the sense actual some identification of the data, then you go for unsupervised learning. Okay, then we have a dimensionality reduction. Dimensionality reduction is the one I told already, right? If you find any data is irrelevant, then I will remove it. So there are some systems, okay, which will there are some algorithms which will identify the data is not relevant to your algorithm. Okay, so that is a dimensionality reduction. Dimensionality in the sense, whatever the features, the columns list come from the Excel sheet, that you're going to have as a machine learning input. Let's say you have 4 columns, okay, or 10 columns, okay, and you will call them as a features. Whenever you plot them to the graph, then it will become a dimension. Each and every column will become a dimension. Let's say x-axis, y-axis, z-axis, something like that. So here dimensionality reduction once again a feature reduction. Okay, so it will remove the columns that is not necessary. That is how it comes. Then the very great thing, beautiful thing here is reinforcement learning. So you know about autonomous cars, AI games, okay, so robot navigations, okay. So reinforcement learning is the one, it learns from the mistake. Okay, the supervised learning and unsupervised learning, they are not they will not identify they can make mistakes, but they will not learn from the mistake. But in the reinforcement learning, it will learn from the mistake. Okay, that is how it happens. Let's say the car is driving by its own. I'm talking about the autonomous car. So you might have seen a lot of videos in YouTube or some other source that the car is driving it by its own. Okay, and everything. From the Silicon Valley, you might have seen those videos. Okay, so what happens is it will learn. It will read the images quickly and send that to the core process. Okay, the technology will identify either there is obstacle or not. Okay, either it has to brake or a horn wherever it is needed. Okay, so something like that. It learns from the mistake. Okay, let's say if it has hit a stone. Okay, small stone or big stone or any obstacle, it learns, it penalizes itself. Okay, and try to learn the things. But in future, whenever the obstacle comes, it will act accordingly. So that is a great one. Okay, but I don't think reinforcement learning, how much it is dealing with cyber security, but most probably supervised and unsupervised learning will do. Okay. So once again, supervised learning in detail. So as I told, training data, test data, data labels, data cleaning, data structure, split data. Okay, so the input raw data. So the first layer you see here is data labels. Okay, data cleaning in the sense, sometimes as I told, normalized values, right? If you don't find the data is normalized, you will try to create some samples. Okay, or you talk to the business to provide the meaningful data or more data. Okay, so these are the major part of data scientists. They will dig through all the data to the bottom. Okay, and identify the data is relevant and meaningful, and it can predict give the better accuracy or not. And then the feature engineering, sampling will be a part of as I told, sampling will be a part of second layer. Okay, and coding is here is, and what are the framework you have, let's say Python or R, MATLAB, whatever it is, you will do some coding with the features. Okay, let's say one more important thing I like to tell you here. Okay, the machine learning will not understand a text or image by its own. So the computer only understands the digits. Okay, so end of the day, you will have the data, all the data converted to the text, numbers. Okay, zeros or ones on any number. Okay, so after converting them to the number, then only the machine learning will be able to predict the correct output. Okay, so it's not something like if you give the text, it can predict. So everything is converted as a numbers, and numbers as a features, or we will say that that as a vectors that is given as an input to the machine learning, it will predict accordingly. Okay, and yeah, next step is repeating. Once again, the step 3 and step 4, they are creating the actual models. You will try to know which algorithm will be suitable for this for this problem statement. You will choose a linear regression or logistic regression. You will go for decision tree. Okay, something like that. Most probably the classification problem will be part of a decision tree or support vector machine or logistic regression. Okay, something like that. Yeah. So then after you create the model, it's not that easy. As I told, you have to fine tune the models to give the better accuracy. You have to understand the formula that is generated by the machine learning. Okay, is ultimately a great problem formula. Okay, so formula in the sense we high level at the high level we used to call them as mathematical model or machine learning model. Okay, then we will try to test them, which we call it as unit testing. Okay, finally we will move that to the production. Okay, so the production is, once again, it has its own pipeline. Okay, so we will discuss in further slide. Okay. Okay, as I told, unsupervised learning, they are. I mean, here you will have a better clarity. You will see the original clustered data, okay, and actual clustered data. So if you plot the data simply onto the graph, then by default it takes the default color as blue, okay, on any default colors it can take. But whenever you want to classify few things, okay, then it can differentiate the data by plotting with different colors. Okay, so as I told, unsupervised learning is part of a unsupervised learning, and the clustering is part of the unsupervised learning. Okay, so if you don't have any labels to the data and business wants to wants you to do something with the data, then you can go for it will be a part of unsupervised learning. Then after clustering, after try to understand few things from the data, then you can let the business know about we can predict something with this data. Okay, but that is relevant to the business should feel that process that will increase the process. Okay, let's say I have a patient. I have understood the patient, and I have their medications with me. In medical term, we used to call them as um, how can I say, charge? Dictations. Actually, we have some. How can I say? There are some technical terms which will have the patient's medications. Okay, we used to say that them as modifiers. Okay, and there are a lot of technical terms behind that. But what happens is, we, with the help of those data, okay, what happens is, I will come to know the particular patient is having this kind of medications and his BP level is this much, and what kind of food is considering, okay, and what kind of a disease, illness he has before 30 years or 40 years of old. Then with the help of data, I can predict that particular patient, okay, will have the diabetes in future. Okay, so if that is if I let these things to the to the business, what they do is they will talk to their clients. Clients will be here doctors or the clinic or the hospital, okay, or individual doctor. Okay, we will let the doctor know about this patient is going to have a diabetic. Will that be useful for you or not? Well, suddenly the doctor finds that, yeah, if I suggest a patient with better medication in future, then he can be his doctor's revenue may be increased, because he is going to let the patient know about the disease that is going to encounter in future. Okay, then there comes the better revenue of the hospital. Okay, and it also serves the patient better. Okay, then the business will say the engineer or data scientist, yeah, you can move ahead with the data and the prediction, and so that has to be maintained as a service and provided. After building the model, you create a service and provide that to the doctors. Either there are several things behind that, and at the high level, you will give it as a service to the doctors or hospital. Okay, so yeah, so that's all about unsupervised learning. You will find the hidden patterns from the data. So here comes the machine learning pipeline. Yeah, pipelining. So for the pipeline, in general time, pipeline is a stream of set of process that is going to in a sequential manner. Okay, yeah. So as I told, prepare data I have explained you. You are going to identify data, it's normalized or not, and remove the irrelevant data. Train the model. Train the model here in the sense you will you have chosen the right model, logistic regression or linear regression. Then you will compile the model, train and compile the model. Package the model here is what, let's say you have written the code and created the model. Okay, then you have to give supply that as a service. Okay, so for that you have to compile the code. Okay, you have to make it a package which can be deployed anywhere on particular server. Okay, now then you can validate. Okay, after packaging, you will deploy on, let's say we have a dev environment, multiple environments and higher environments, QA, UAT, everything. Okay, you can deploy those models as a service. Okay, and validate them. Okay, validation in the sense you can use some sample data. Okay, and check the model is performing better or not. Okay, then deployment comes here. Okay, validate the model in the sense either you can validate the model locally or you can deploy through some server and you can validate. Okay, that's our own wish. It varies according to the I mean project to project. Okay, or person to person. Okay, deploy model here is yeah, deploy model. Yeah, so deployment once again is a part of a CI/CD. Okay, continuous integration and continuous deployment. It's not necessary to be a continuous integration and continuous deployment. It can be simple deployment. You can deploy the models. Okay, um, uh, let's say deploy the model in the sense simply you are creating a service and have your model supplied to the service on a particular server. That's all about it. Later on, monitor the model. Monitor model is a very crucial thing in machine learning world. What happens is, let's say you have a machine learning model. What happens is this model will predict for few for certain period of time. Okay. Later on, there will be a data shift. I mean data drift. Okay. Let's say I have a hospital and I have a set of patients with me. Those patients are, let's say, from particular state, they will have some kind of a medication. Okay. Suddenly, the business comes, I mean, acquires one more, I mean, deals with one more business. I mean, the hospital or doctor, which has set of patients. Okay. Now, if you give the patients from the new hospital, it cannot predict that the patient will have a diabetes or not. Okay. It may or may not. Okay. That depends upon the data. Okay. So suddenly there will be data drift. Okay. If you take a banking or credit card domain, okay, if there's a new scheme in a credit card, then the model will not predict the default customer. Okay, so in that case, we have to reconsider the model. You have to bring down the model, and you have to revisit the data, and you have to build the model better, and you have to go for the deployment once again. That is a very toughest part of machine learning. Okay, and very important part also. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. Okay, then cyber security, yes, yeah. So far, any doubts with machine learning? Okay, so okay, I'm assuming you don't have any doubts. Whenever you have some doubts, you can stop me immediately. I can explain it. Okay, sorry. Cyber security comes in now, and you know, cyber security is very important, playing an important role in IT industry, especially. You know, when the data, I mean, as I told already in the introduction section, so whenever the data increases or the resources increases, it has to be, I mean, secured. Okay, either this can impact the business whenever there is a crash. Okay, very badly. It can impact the business very badly. Sometimes it takes for a business to recover the data or get back to the normal position for, I mean, for a month or a week. Okay, that is too bad, right? So it completely ruins the reputation. So cybersecurity is very important thing here. And cybersecurity meaning, I mean, meaning of a cybersecurity, you can have its own, your own. Everybody have its own definition. Okay, have their own definition because uh, it's kind of a sorry, it's kind of a security. Okay, that has to be given to the data and resources. Okay, um, okay, to protect them from the unauthorized access or any damage. Okay, so that is how that is where the cyber security is. So going forward, we'll have a better cyber security understanding. Okay. Now here, if you see the image, the elements are included in your company cyber security policy. Okay. So what are the most relevant elements or most commonly used elements in the cyber security? Okay. The software security, first of all, yeah. If there is any malware, then it can crash the entire environment. How data is backed up, that is also, you will have some retention policy. Let's say our data in terabytes or petabytes too. Okay, you have to make sure this data is backed up and it can be used whenever there is a disaster. Okay, yeah. So every organization should have some retention policy in order to back up their data. Okay, that is where the data backup is required. Detect scams, yeah, like email phishing. Email phishing is a global thing. Everybody would have known about that. Okay, and scams. I mean, you can track the emails that is spam mails or not, and you can move that to the spam. Okay, and report security incidents. Yeah. So whenever there is something fishy happens, immediately you will let the you'll raise alarm. Okay, and there is a problem with the security or with the data you have. Requirements of the regular updating company computers. Yeah, that's also fine, because you need the technology upgraded, because what happens is whenever you find you are not updating, what happens is the entire environment will be going on increasing their their strength. Okay, but whenever at a certain stage you will feel that your data has to be improved, and it will become, because the other resources and other resources from outside of your organization will be increased, will have increased resource, capacity of resources. Then you will find that you will be lacking. Okay, and it will also impact your securities at the end of the day. Okay, then you keep yourself upgraded so that you will have better security too. Okay, and password management, yes, right. So there are policy, and in a standard companies, or not even the standard companies, very large, small scale industries, they are conducting a session to to understand the employees to know about the security and what are the complaints they are complying to. Okay, so that they can understand the security regulations that they are following. They can act accordingly. So if some employees don't know about the security, they can misuse. They can, unknowingly or knowingly, they can misuse the data. Okay, so there are several principles followed by the standard companies. Okay, and content sharing, once again, email or protocol-based file sharing, internet usage, network access. Yes, network access, you should have a limited access. Yeah, you should not allow everyone to access. Okay, there are a lot of access restrictions here, IP restriction, role-based restriction, and there are several things. Proxy-based restriction, everything is there. Now the device usage. Yeah, device usage is a very common thing, and it's least considered. Okay, yeah. So now going forward, the role of cybersecurity. So this is very important thing here. Availability, integrity, and confidentiality. Okay, we used to call it as CR triad. Okay. Now what is the confidentiality? Okay, confidentiality is, let's say I'm sending a message to my friend. Hey, dude, I like to meet you at 5 p.m. Okay, and that my data will be sent as a packet to the network. And what happens is, let's say the hacker in between modifies the 5 p.m. as 8 p.m. Okay, what happens is it removes the confidentiality, because I'm going to meet my friend at 5 p.m., but he knows that I'm going to meet him at 8 p.m. Okay, so there will be a mess up. Okay, so not only this, either in a banking example, if you take, that is very crucial. Okay, the very important thing and very critical thing here. Okay, so the confidentiality matters a lot with cybersecurity. Okay, we have to make sure the data is confidential while sending it to the network. Okay, then the integrity comes in. Yeah, integrity in the sense that data should be reliable. Whatever you send, that should be there on the destination. Okay, even you can take the same example as I told. Hey, dude, I'm going to meet you at 5 p.m. Okay, yeah. So if that is modified as 8 p.m. Okay, assume that what happens, there will be a mess up. Okay, and there will not be a data sync between. If you take the banking example, I will transfer amount 2,000, but it can be made as 20,000 by adding a zero at the end. Okay. Now what happens here is, so the integrity is missing. Then bank may do some wrong calculation. The entire, accounts will not be tallied. Then there will be a security breach. Okay. So there comes the integrity part. Okay, and availability. It's also very important, very, very important. No, everyone have the Gmail or Yahoo account. Everyone have their own username and password. I'm sorry. Okay. What happens is, let's say, yeah. So whenever you hit the Gmail server with your username and password, what happens? Okay, so it will either it's a wrong password or right username or wrong username. It has to hit the server anyway. It affects the availability very badly. How I will explain now. Okay, so what happens is let's say I am the genuine customer. Okay, and there are several customers, I mean, attackers. Okay, they are not genuine by default. Okay, what happens is they used to send multiple requests to the Gmail server with wrong password and wrong username. What happens is the server used to receive the request from the, I mean, attackers. Okay, and validate the username password, and they are obviously they are going to be wrong. There is no doubt. Then it has to let the user know you are not the authorized user. Okay, now let's say there are 1,000 and 10,000 attacks to the Gmail server. It makes the Gmail service, okay, busy. Okay, in that case, I'm the genuine customer. I'll have my username, proper username and password. I'm trying to hit the server, but it's not responding because the entire server is busy with the attacker. It's trying to resolve the attacker. Okay, resolve the sense it can secure or it can validate the customer in different way. Okay, and let the customer about, I mean, the attackers know, but you are not genuine, you are not authorized. So now, as a genuine customer, so I'm a genuine customer. That's an important thing here. I'm not able to avail the service quickly. Okay, so that's a very big drawback. Okay, so cybersecurity also has the very important thing as availability. Okay, availability is the one very important thing we need to consider with the cybersecurity. And there are several technologies which is handling this availability. And you know, everyone knows about Google is very smart in handling those, but still the attackers is also very smart. As I day by day, it's kind of a war between the genuine business and the attacker. Okay, now. Okay, yeah, principle of cybersecurity, yeah, once again, govern in the sense you have to identify, you have to maintain the integrity, confidentiality, and availability is always there. You have to make sure each and every moment, you have to make sure these things are achieved in the environment. Okay, so if you found some, next is protect. If you identify something happens with this, these three things, then you will protect them. Okay, either you will add proxies. Okay, you will make some actions to ignore the unauthorized attacks using IP restrictions. Okay, and proxies. So you take several actions. Okay, and there are several technologies. You will deploy those technologies at the right place to protect them. Yeah. Next is detecting and understanding. So detect and respond both comes in a timely manner. Okay, detect in the sense, let's say govern and protect is static. I mean, it's the offline one. You can understand the environment. Okay, either it is following the integrity, it is achieving the integrity, confidentiality, and availability. And if you found something that is not happening, then you try to protect them and take some action as a manager or AVP or higher authority or decision authority in your organization. Then you try to protect the environment. Next is detect and respond. As I told, it's a timely thing. It's dynamic thing, first of all. So whenever there is a network that is servicing the user, customer, it has to detect the vulnerability quickly, okay, and respond it quickly. So respond in the sense, let's say I'm getting a spam email. So what I do is I will scan the image. Okay, I will scan the email. Okay, what I do is if I found something fishy with that email, what I do is I will just forward that to the security team, or I will move that to the spam. Okay, likewise, if you take about the network, if there is some anomaly packets coming inside the network, I will identify those packets pattern, and I will respond them by by making a big alarm to the IT team, okay, security team, they can take action quickly. Okay, and I mean day by day it's happening as it's a timely manner. So they have to keep on monitoring these things. Okay, so every organization should have their own system to detect and respond, and they have the practice of governing and protecting. So it's a basic framework of cybersecurity. I mean, it's not something new. Every organization, if you go and check for any CMO level company or any ISO standard company, they should follow this. Okay, yeah. So, and one more thing I like to let you know here is why cybersecurity here is, okay. Um, Cybersecurity um, may impact the business, okay, either through the, I mean, either through the delay of recovery. Okay, let's say it has crashed some data, or it has crashed some machine or server. Have to take some time to bring the server up to, I mean the business as usual. Okay, that takes some time. Okay, that is the one thing. The next thing is, as I told already, HIPAA. Okay, HIPAA is the very strong standard which is followed across healthcare industry. If HIPAA is one, you have to protect the health information. Okay, so whenever you have a patient data, the US has proposed the Regulation Act. I mean, whatever the clients or servicing clients, they are processing the patient data. Okay, they have to comply to the HIPAA regularization. So if not, what happens? US penalize. Use a, very large penalty. I mean, very strong penalty. They have to bear with big amount of dollars. Okay, so that will be, impacting the entire industry with the reputation, right? So what happens is, strictly they have to comply to the regularization for medical billing or healthcare. I'm mentioning it as HIPAA, and there are a lot of other standards according to the industry. If you go and check the finance domain, it will have its own standard, and if you go and check the banking domain, it will have its own standard. Okay? So there are a lot of standards. It's mandatory. They have to comply to this regularization. Okay, so they are the very strict one. That's how the cybersecurity came in. Okay, so in order to comply to these regularizations, okay, cybersecurity is mandatory, has become mandatory now. Okay, so that's how it goes. Now, so for any questions on cybersecurity?
Participants, if you have any clarification in cybersecurity.
Okay, yeah. So as I told, you can stop me anywhere if you have doubts. Okay, yeah. So here are the cybersecurity challenges. Ransom evolution. So the malware software is going on increasing day by day. Ransomware, 2017 we encountered a ransomware. Okay, WannaCry. Okay, that's a, a malicious software that is that has entered the different organization network, and it has impacted a lot of reputations. Okay, so and to recover the system from them, they requested some currency through Bitcoin. So that is how it happened. So yeah, and ransomware day by day increasing, and the cybersecurity will also be will also need to increase its capacity day by day. So those are the challenges with cybersecurity. I mean, it's not something like I'm done with the cybersecurity with the organization. You have to keep on monitoring the things, okay, throughout the life cycle. Throughout the life. Okay, so that is a big challenge of cybersecurity. Ransomware is a very, very, very big impact. Okay, and it's a very important cyber crime, which has to be considered. Okay, blockchain revolution. Okay, I'm not that much familiar with blockchain, but I have some basic knowledge on that. So blockchain, it has multiple nodes. Okay, each and every node will have some data inside it. Okay, and it's not something like they are the secure. Okay, so whenever the blockchain increases its enlarges its network. Okay, cybersecurity need to be leveraged. So that is also should happen. Leverage in the sense it's not going to be done automatically. You have to take some actions to secure the blockchain data, the blockchain entire framework, entire architecture. So blockchain is also a second important challenge that we have to consider. So then third is IoT threats. IoT is a very familiar thing now. Internet of Things is, I mean, in future, not only now, in future, it's going to be a major role. Let me take an example of censored cars. Okay, now if you go for high cost cars, even low cost cars, I mean, they are having the sensors. Okay, and each and every sensor will generate some data and send that to the cloud or some servers, so that they can read the data and predict something, either the car is going to be punctured or it has to go get some hardware impacted, going to get damaged, something like that. So yeah, and yeah, IoT not only in automobile. Okay, if you take the media, I mean telecommunication industry. Okay, set of box and mobiles. Okay, and if you take the home appliances, either the AC, I mean air conditioner and the TV, everything. Okay, so everything will be part of IoT now. Okay, so everything will be I mean will be made to use part of a Internet of Things. Okay, so that they can communicate with each other, and once again, if they are communicating with each other, they have to be secure, because uh, nowhere it should be, I mean, hacked. Okay, let's say I'm going to operate my TV or air conditioner. Okay, I have to make the air conditioner secure. I should not pass the wrong signal, so that the AC will raise its temperature or reduce its temperature anomaly. Okay, so by default, IoT things are not secured. Now the security comes also in place with IoT threats. Okay, so IoT has to be security compliant now in future also. Okay, so commercial purpose, because as it's going to be commercially used, it's not something like this. No need to be secured, because even it is used for commercial purpose, we have to make sure they are make sure they are secured. Okay, and I mean companies are taking action in order to make them security too. Okay, and AI expansion. So whenever you feel the cybersecurity challenges increases, the AI also should increase, because uh, data is going to, I mean, in data, I mean, evaluating day by day, it's not going to have the same pattern. Okay, as I explained in few slides before this. Okay, the data drift will be there by default. The nature of data will have drift by default. Okay, so the cybersecurity data is the data once again, which is going to have its own nature. I mean, what I'm trying to say is it's going to change its pattern day by day. Okay, not the day by day. For certain span of time, it will have some data change. I mean, pattern change. So it has to increase their in order to increase the cybersecurity or withstand the cybersecurity strength. Then we have to make the AI stronger. It has also be I mean AI also should be reconsidered to have a better detections. Okay, and serverless apps. I mean, once again, serverless apps are the cloud-based apps. Now, what people are doing is, I have the small program that runs on a particular cloud. I simply say a particular service, deploy it. Okay, there is no strong specification. Okay, cloud themselves, they will have their own hardware. They will have their own configuration. Let's say 1 GB RAM or 40 GB hard disk. Okay, or 200 GB hard disk. It's not known to the end user who is deploying the service onto the cloud. Okay, so by the way, it's not secured too. So every app that you are deploying to the server is not going to be secure. So the cloud also increases, cloud resources also increases day by day. Once again, the security need to be increased day by day. Okay, that is how it happens. So these are the challenges. Challenges at the high level are those here. I mean, are those one you are seeing in on the slide. There are a lot of challenges inside it when you're going to implement actually. Okay. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Yeah, so now slowly we are moving to, so far we have taken, I mean, understood about what is AI and machine learning, and what is data science, and what are data, how we pre-process data. And now slowly we are moving towards, I mean, we learned about cyber security before that, and slowly we are moving on to learn uh, how the AI used with the cyber security, how it can detect. Okay, so we have few algorithms going forward. I'll explain that. Before that, I like to tell you signature based technique. Okay, so what happens is, have been used since early days of security monitoring. So yeah, virus can use to signature. Yeah, so let's say you have files infected. Okay, it will identify some patterns inside it. Okay, intrusion detection system. So patterns in the sense by the data wise. Okay, it will identify some pattern. If you find that pattern, okay, it will immediately say that the file is vulnerable. Okay, or it has impacted already. Okay, because what happens is signature based, once again you come to know, it's kind of a rule based. Okay, so if you find some signature, okay, if you find that signature is meeting with the software or malware or file in any file, okay, then you will add along that this file is virus infected, or it is impacted, it has a security breach. Okay, it has something vulnerable. Okay, so yeah, let's move on to next slide. So opportunities, yeah, once again, yeah, we have the several opportunities to implement the machine learning for the cyber security. Okay, machine learning is not only meant for, everyone know about this, not only meant for cyber security. As I told, healthcare industry, banking industry, and even for recommendation system for e-commerce. Okay, so there are several things. Okay, and even for autonomous cars, image processing, cancer prediction, cancer image scanning. So there are several things inside it. Okay, so now opportunities that we are going to have is with cyber security. Okay, fortunately, machine learning can aid in solving most common tasks, including regression, prediction, and classification. Yeah, so mostly the cyber security, we are going to deal with regression, prediction, and the classification. Okay, and we will explain the deep learning, computer vision, and NLP in the upcoming slides, as I told already. But most probably, this classification and regression will be used. Okay, okay, and yeah. So what happens is, why machine learning? First of all, why machine learning with cyber security? How we have, let's say, if you take a McAfee antivirus, okay, how it was identifying the malware and killing it. Okay, so you might have these questions, right? Because what happens is, they might have some rule based techniques. Okay, as I told already, they have some set of rules. If the pattern for false, I mean the signature falls in set of rules, then they will identify this as a malware. Okay, or virus infected. Okay, now day by day, as I told, the data is going to be larger. Okay, it is going to be imaginable in future, near future. Okay, so in that case, we have to still maintain the cyber security. So human is the one, he can understand, he has a good intelligence. Okay, because he has created the machine learning, but he's not that much fast. Okay, that's why we came to approach machine learning. Okay, machine learning is the one understand the very large data, even in petabytes. Okay, and identify some pattern inside it, and it will be that particular pattern will be used to predict either the software is malicious, or uh, the particular software is, I mean, file is virus infected or not. Okay, so that's where the AI comes in. So in order to quickly detect and quickly respond, AI is the one. AI is the right approach. Okay, yeah. So before we see an example, we can understand a few of the network attacks, intrusion attacks. Intrusion in the sense, okay, so yeah, they will enter the network, okay, and search for the chances, okay, and identify and apply the attacks. Okay, that is how it happens. So asymmetric routing. So this is very common and very important thing to be considered. Asymmetric routing. Let's say you are sending a message, okay, and asymmetric routing is there. There is symmetric routing. There will not be problem with symmetric routing, but asymmetric routing, what it does is, it sends the packet of data in a discrete manner. Okay, Either let's say you will send a packet, you send the information to a set of packets. One packet will be routed to the router 1, and another packet will be routed to the router 2. Okay, what happens is, so the message will be partial. Okay, whenever you deploy a particular detection mechanism in the network, what it identifies is this message is possible. It identifies some pattern inside it. This message is going to be is partial. Something happens with this message. So I can take action. Either it's a malicious, message, text, or signal, or not. I will take an action. Okay, wrongly. Okay, that's how the asymmetric routing is considered. Okay, so if you see the definition, when network packets leave via one path, written via a different path. Okay, so the asymmetric routing comes in. Okay, that's a important thing to be considered. Okay, and buffer overflow. Recently, we have WhatsApp attacks. Okay, everybody known about that. WhatsApp attack is the one. No need to, if let's say if an attacker calls you, you no need to attend the call. If they simply send a missed call, okay, it sends some packets. I mean, missed call in the sense not the, you don't imagine that there is no packets or there is no data sent to your mobile. Okay. They will send some packets in order to trigger the alarm in your mobile, saying that somebody is calling you. Okay, in that case, they will send some wrong packets. Let's say I have a let's say in example in core technical part, let's take an integer value. My integer value is composed of 8 packets. Let's say assume. Okay, but I am sending a data only 6 bytes, 6 bits. Let's say. Okay, or 6 bytes, whatever you take the units that is your wish. The remaining 2 bytes, I will dump some malicious software. Okay, whenever I make a call to a person, what happens is the free bytes will have some malicious software. Okay, that will be sent inside your runtime. Then the malicious software will take some will be allowed to run. Then you will crash some data or hardware inside it. So that is the buffer overflow attack. Okay, then protocol specific attacks. Okay, now yeah, so you have some protocol specific attacks. Once again, it's a network based. Okay, so you will send some improper packets. Okay, to the network. Okay, which seems to be a right packet. Okay, you will interface. You will proxy the entire packets that you sent. The system will identify them as a right packets and allow them inside. So that is a network specific packet, because if you check the ARP protocol here, it doesn't have any security actually. So it will allow the message simply inside the network and it is vulnerable finally. Okay, traffic flooding, as I told already, you can send multiple requests to the servers. Okay, so that the genuine customer will be delayed. Delayed with the service. Okay, so yeah, if you Google it, you can check and come to know that botnet attacks. If you get some time, you can check with Google botnet attacks. You can check with that. So it's kind of a traffic flooding. So you will make the traffic in the network so that the actual service to be provided to the customer will not be done, will not happen. Okay, then Trojan, once again it's a kind of a virus. Okay, and it will if it enters to the network or machine, it makes the DOS attacks. The DOS attacks is the denial of the service. Okay, it takes some time to serve the people or customers, erase some stored data or open channel to permit system control outside the attack. Okay, so these are the common things that everybody know. Okay, then the worms, once again it's one kind of a virus. Sorry. Kind of virus which similar to other virus. Okay, and it can damage some data inside it. Okay, it can hit some OS related files. Okay, which is only authorized which allows only the authorized person, but it can write some malicious software, have some malicious software to break the entire system. Okay. So I'll give 1 or 2 minutes so that you can recollect some questions if you have, and let me know, I can explain.
Yes, participants, if you have any queries, you can post in the chat or you can unmute and you can ask. So one question, actually yesterday we had an one attack kind of things in Gmail, right?
Yes.
For an half an hour evening time, it got stuck and we couldn't able to find out any previous mails and all. And immediately they rectified it. So what technology they might have used?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there are a lot of
It,
sorry.
yes, so is this the kind of DDoS attack or any other thing?
Yeah, it's part of. I mean, whatever the attacks that I have explained, I mean, it's covered under this. I mean, it should be a part of a network attack. Traffic flooding, you can say, because I mean, at the end, as an end user, we will not be coming to know what kind of attack is, but you see the denial of a service, right? The service is denied for some time, right? So most probably there might be network related attacks. Okay. And until the Gmail lets us, I mean, Google lets us know about the attack, we will not come to know. There may be several reasons, but they might be part of this kind of attack for sure. And they will have some intelligence, or they may take some. I mean, you know, Google has multiple proxies. Okay. If you find them, there is a problem with some network, they can immediately divert the request to the different server. They are very smart with them. Okay. With the data. So that is how you got the data. I mean, service quickly back, right? So yeah, there might be some several technologies, and definitely I believe AI should be part of that.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, now participants, if you have any queries in AI or in challenges in cybersecurity, your research area, you can post or you can unmute and you can ask.
Yeah. Okay. So assuming that nobody asks question, but if you have still have any questions, you can stop me. Okay, the network intrusion detection using AI. Now we are going to see the actual data. Okay, we are not going to see the code because showing the code may be meaningful to you. Right now, it's not something like we can quickly cover everything in these 2 hours. Okay, so now, so if you the data that you are seeing is from Australian Center of Cybersecurity. Okay, so if you see that, I mean, so many of you have some imagination. Maybe in the previous session, you might have learned about. I mean, understood about. I'm sorry, understood about the AI and machine learning. Okay, they might have told about this data. So at the very core level, at the very practical level, data will be something like this. Okay, either it can be in Excel, or if there is a big data, you will have the big data technology to view the data. Okay, that is how it comes. So if you have any imaginations, just modify your thoughts with this. Actually, you are going to have the data in such a way, either through Excel or through some database oriented technology. That's all about it. Okay. Now this data that you are seeing will be converted as the numbers. So if you are seeing, let me before that, let me explain the features inside it. Feature in the sense, technically in a data science world, we used to call the columns as the features. Okay, so now you see multiple column headers, but they are not readable. They are in a they have their acronym. Okay, but just have the look on that. Okay, finally you have the column AR, attack underscore cat. Okay, it's kind of a attack category. Okay, so for normal, if you see 0, okay, for all normal, the label is 0, right? And fuzzers you have 1, and exploits you have 1. Okay, there are different type of attacks. Now, so this is how the data will be. You will get this data from the business, or here cybersecurity. most of the cybersecurity products will be a product actually. So if I'm working as an architect in my company, so only few organizations will have its own security built through the architects or some technical experts. Okay, but all the industries, entire industry, they will have the cyber security product. Okay, brought to their environment. Okay, and there are several products available in the market. They have to bring the cybersecurity tool and they have to implement what are the securities they need for them. Okay, and in the cybersecurity will be part of the product development. Let's say if I'm going to if you're going to be a cybersecurity engineer, okay, and with cybersecurity AI engineer, okay, then you will be a part of the product-based company most probably. There is no doubt. Okay, then you will have some global data, global structure of data. So the record that you're seeing is Australian Center of Cybersecurity. If you go and check for the Australian data, most probably they will have this kind of a standard, this kind of a structure. Okay, then because one more thing is like HTTP protocol, hypertext transfer protocol or HTML. Okay, it's a global standard. If let's say I have a tag, I hope everyone knows about HTML. Okay, I have a header tag, I have a table tag. Okay, that is universal. Okay, so I could not have my own HTML saying that table is equal to table 1. Okay, so that is not the standard. So everyone, every entire universe, okay, all the organizations should be in contract that this is the HTTP and this is the HTML. Okay, likewise for security, they have the standard that everybody should have their own, a common understanding of. Everybody should have a contract between them. So the data that is from the network packet should have this structure. That's all. Okay, so from the Australian standard, these are the structures. Most probably they will have some standard with this. Okay, there may be some other excels which will include or exclude these columns, or it will have some separate data, some other separate data. They will have their own standard once again. So one that you are seeing is one kind of standard Australian data actually. Okay, and you can see the attacks, normal exploits, normal fuzzes, denial of service, everything. Okay, and it has its own label. But you can see the attacks, different attacks here, but the labels are 0101. That's all. Okay, either you need to know it's attack or non-attack. Okay, because every attack is going to be a severe. Okay, we no need to prioritize. No need to alarm the severity of the attack. Okay, that is maybe a separate. May know somebody has taken the control. Okay, that's fine. So, identifying what kind of attack will be a separate one. Okay, and no need to, that may be a separate algorithm. Right now, the data that we had for only to predict, only to classify either it's attack or non-attack. Okay, so finally the 0 or 1 matters. Here, we see that label, you see the label, right? So as it is a label data, then we will be falling under the supervised learning. Got it? Because as I told already, every data will have the label, then we'll go for supervised learning. If the data has no label, then it will be unsupervised learning. Okay, let me move on to next slide. And one more thing is the attack or any other text column. Most probably you are seeing only the numerical columns here. So it will be easy for the machine learning to consider it directly, except the attack underscore category column. Okay, they have to be, if you want to consider the attack underscore category, they have to be numeral. They have to be considered converted to the numeric values. Okay, we used to call them as tokenized or standardized, something like that. They are technical terms of machine learning, but I don't want to let you know about that right now. Okay, then quickly we come to logistic regression. The logistic regression is the part of which is evaluated from the linear regression. Linear regression is equal to is nothing but you can see the algorithm y equal to b naught plus b1 plus x, right? In school days or colleges, you might have learned about y equal to mx plus c, where m is the slope and c is the constant. Okay, that is the actual linear function. Whenever you plot the data, we feel that the data is normal. So I will quickly go back to the previous slide. I will show that quickly. Yeah, here you see the data plotter is linear here, right? So it will, no data is perfect. Okay, no data will be falling exactly on the linear line. So it will be falling around the line, but it will not exactly fall on the linear line. Okay. So now in this case, we will consider go for a linear regression, y equal to mx plus c, because as we understand that the data is proportional to each other. Okay. Now let me go back to the slide. Okay. So now, but logistic regression is little bit different from the linear regression, because linear regression is going to draw a line, straight line. But what happens is, as I told, all the data is not perfectly plotted, because I mean, by its nature, it's not going to be perfect. So it's not going to be, I mean, let's say the attack related data is not going to fall above the line, and non-attack is not going to fall and exactly fall under the line below. Okay. So there may be some of the non-attack data will fall under attack section, and attack under some non-attack section. Okay. So because of this, we could not classify the data with the help of linear regression. That's why we came to logistic regression. Logistic regression, what we do is we apply sigmoid function to the logistic regression. Okay, you are seeing here as p equal to 1 by 1 plus e power, exponential function. Okay, with the help with some values on top of it. Okay, with the power of something, and power of something in so on second y equal to b mx plus c. Okay, so that formula will extract you the non-linear curve. Okay, if you see the curve, orange curve, which is in a Z shape. Okay, Z shape in opposite manner. So which will try to cover most of the attack data or non-attack data properly. Classify the data properly. Whereas in linear regression, that will not be possible. That's why we went for logistic regression. Okay, so will be logistic regression can be used for binary classification, also for multi-class classification, both. Okay, let's move on to support vector machine. So here the attack and non-attack data is plotted in such a way. So you see some the bandwidth of a linear line drawn on the image is little bit larger when compared to linear. Linear is nothing but a straight line. There is no bandwidth, length, breadth parameter with the linear regression or logistic regression. Here, what happens is support vector machine draws the hard margin or soft margin. Okay, soft margin is the one it stands. So if you see. Okay, sorry. Okay, so if you see, I'll draw here. Okay, so if you see the line is drawn something like this. So for linear regression, you have simple straight line. It will be y equal to mx plus c plus c. Okay, so that is how it comes. But in support vector machine, you have these three lines. So we will call this as soft margin. Okay, and this will be hard margin. Okay, so that is how it goes. Okay, what is the advantages behind this? Okay, what deals with soft margin or hard margin? So soft margin, hard margin is strictly for classifying the data. Okay, but soft margin gives some relaxation with the data. Okay, and it is prone to outliers. Okay, sometimes outliers is the data that is falling outside the graph, outside the pattern. Okay, so support vector machine, use of support vector machine, we can deal with the outliers. So that's why these two margins are coming into the place now. So there's a little advantage when compared to soft margin. Support vector machine and logistic regression. Yeah. Now let me go back. Yeah, I'm going to only one more algorithm pending. I'm going to complete now. Okay, yeah. So as I told, in order to handle the outliers, then we are going for support vector machine. And if you're seeing the lines, I mean the hard margin and soft margin in a simpler way, right? When we go for a multi-dimension, you cannot imagine the plane. Okay, it's drawn as a plane, not as a line. So it creates the support vector machine creates a plane. Multi-dimensional plane where it can categorize the data. You can just Google it for support vector machine. Then you can see some 3D image. How you can come to know how the plane has been drawn in multi-dimensional space. Okay, now so decision tree. So one again a strong algorithm. Okay, and decision tree, what happened is it will categorize the data. It will read all the data and categorize it. Okay, let's say if you want to analyze a person with his talent, with his skills. Okay, then you can predict that how much salary is going to earn in future. Okay, or near future. Okay, let's say if he has a good skill, communication skill, then it will fall under some bucket. Under communication skill, if he has a good verbal skill or written skill, okay, then he'll fall under some other category. And if he's also having a technical skill, then he'll fall under some other bucket. So likewise, it will draw a complete tree structured diagram. Okay, and it will have its own probability. Okay, so each and every boxes you see, it will have some probability with it, associated with it. Okay, so whenever the new data comes in, it will have the data read, it will have the data input, and it will check all the sections under the tree, and it will identify which bucket the user, the customer or the person falls under, and say that the person is very skilled, is going to earn lakhs in fewer months, something like that. Okay, so that is where the decision tree for our algorithm. So supervised anomaly detection. So it can also identify the attack is fall under which category. Okay, either it's attack or non-attack, or it can be which category. So it can do multiple things with the classification. Okay, so decision tree, I am sure that this is one of the greatest algorithm. Okay, and technically there are a lot of difference between them. Okay, you can just learn by your own. Okay, if you have time. Okay, now, yeah. So then deep learning, deep learning is used in definitely used in part of AI for cybersecurity, because machine learning, they are actually machine learning whenever the data is becoming larger. Okay, it's mandatory to go for deep learning. So whenever the data is increasing, machine learning will not give the better accuracy, but the deep learning will give the better accuracy. Okay, so that's a very important thing. So each and every green and blue colors here, we used to call them as neurons. When we talk about the history of the artificial intelligence, we read about neurons, right? So here each and every blue colors will have are the neurons. They are connected to the other neurons, okay, with each other. Okay, so this network, you are seeing, right, it's kind of a neural network. Okay, and which is connected with each other, and it's kind of a feed forward neural network or fully connected neural network. Okay, it will have some input layer and output layer. You see y of 1 and y of 2, right? So those are the outputs. So if you give x1, x2, x3 are the features. So I have shown you the Excel, right? So these every column will be x1, x2, x3, and xn, and finally the y1, y2 will be zeros or 1 here. Okay, and deep learning is will give always better accuracy. Okay, sometimes very rare case it may be bad at accuracy when compared to the normal machine learning. And machine learning is not separate from deep learning. Deep learning is achieved through the machine learning only. So each and every neuron, blue color or every blue color in between, we have hidden layer 1 and 2, right? They are actually containing the machine learning model inside it. So every neuron here is composed of machine learning and the activation function. Okay, you can learn about that later. Okay, and so the computer vision, I'm not sure, because computer vision and natural language processing is not mostly used with computer, cyber security, but there may be few. I'm not sure, but I haven't experienced this computer vision technology with cyber security. Okay, but for the knowledge, I'm just helping you to understand this. Computer vision is the one. The autonomous cars, or the image classifications or object classification, object identification. So everything comes under the computer vision. Okay, so if you go and check some, let's say people are, students are attending the exam, going to attend the exam from the from home, right, online. Okay, so they can use the computer vision algorithm. Okay, and I can identify a student is copying from the papers, or some other, or somebody is helping. Okay, so if you look at somewhere here or somewhere above, okay, the machine will let the supervisor know about the person is not genuine. I mean, the student is not genuine. So I mean that is they are going to implement, I believe, but I'm not sure about that. Okay, they may have this technology behind this for the exams that is going to be held for the students now, but I'm not sure the technology is going to be used mandatory with the students for their examination. But this can be used. I'm sure about that. Okay, this can be used. But you may have some doubts. Okay, I may have some sound disturbance at the from left hand, right hand side, or from left hand side and behind me. Okay, but I can turn here and there. So how the machine learning will come to know? Yeah, that's a big question. But if you really go and check for the algorithm, you will be really surprised. So machine is not the one. The algorithm is not the one quickly mistakes a person who is writing the exam or doing some action. It has it will identify a person. Okay, is really genuine or not. Okay, not simply turning the head or turning the head back, so rotating the head, so it's not going to wrongly predict. Okay, and it depends upon the algorithm written by the computer vision. I mean, by the person. Okay, I may have the worst algorithm. Okay, so I write some algorithm. Okay, that may be worst. Even I speak something or winkle my eyes. Okay, so it may wrongly identify me. I'm doing something fishy. Okay, so it depends upon the algorithm how strong we have. Okay, but it can understand the person actions, either he or she is genuine or not, for sure. And it depends upon the person writing the algorithm. Okay, and next, the natural language processing. And one more thing is, natural language processing is not the artificial part of prediction. Okay, it's kind of a processing the text or unstructured text. Okay, or voice data, everything. Okay, so if you see here the image, you try to understand. After natural language processing only, we come to know. Okay, we will supply the data to the machine learning. Okay, natural language processing is a processing simply. It's not the artificial intelligence. Okay, and now it can be used for sentiment analysis. Let's say in my organization we have a tool called Amara. So what it does is, we'll give some input. Okay, it will ask for the feedback for the whole year. Okay, you can complain any person or any department who is they are not doing good, they are not serving properly, they are not responding properly. You can write something. If you feel your bathrooms or canteens are not good, or you feel that the food and beverages not supplied at the time. Okay, you can complain over there, and you can appreciate too. Okay, so everything taken as a text, then it will process to natural language processing. Then you can do sentiment analysis. So how far the employees has been satisfied. So how many employees are not satisfied with this particular department, something like that. Okay, and information retrieval. So let's say I have a document. Okay, I have a big document. So what happens is, I'm not ready to read the entire document. So I like to summarize or conclude or get the important points out of it. Then NLP will help you. Okay, there are some several algorithms which does some natural language processing, and it will identify, conclude everything after reading. After passing all the entire document. Okay, that can be done. Information extraction, once again, information retrieval and its extraction both are related. And answer question, you know already, Google, right? Hello Google. Okay, and yeah, that is very global thing. And it understands your voice, it receives your voice and passes your voice and converts your voice data as a numbers, and it predicts something, either whatever you are speaking. Let's say, hi Google, I want a coffee. I want to book a ticket, cinema ticket. Okay, then it receives my voice and passes a pattern inside it and converts everything as a number. Then it will answer you. Okay, then finally the machine translation. Yeah, even the Google translation happens in this way. You can write some sentence. Context at some level. Okay, so can you give me you're angry or not? You're not good with the person you're talking to? Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. So it can understand the context and translate accordingly. So day by day, its performance is going to increase. Okay, we'll see the better translations in future. Yeah, and that's all about it. Okay, so the conclusion is, I mean, artificial intelligence is definitely going to be there for um, cyber security in future. There is no drop of artificial intelligence. Definitely sure, because the attackers started using the AI. No, that's a surprising thing here. Okay, so if that is the case, then we have to use the artificial intelligence. It's kind of a war between the genuine person and the attacker, the organization and the attacker. Okay, so yeah, that's all about it. So here the few reference, a couple of reference I have given. You can just read this books and magazines. You can get more idea of artificial intelligence and cyber security in cyber security. So do you have any questions?
Yes. So participants, if you have any queries, you can unmute and you can ask, or you can post it in the chat box. And you can please note down the references that sir has mentioned.
Yeah.
Better you can take a screenshot.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll be sharing this particular slide
Sure.
for you all in the WhatsApp group.
And this is a little updated one. I will update, send it to Anand. Okay, so he can share with you.
Yeah, any queries, anything is there, you can ask. Okay, then I think they have comfortable with the session. So thank you so much, sir, for the remarkable and valuable inputs
Thank you.
on
Yeah.
artificial intelligence and cybersecurity, that challenges and opportunities. I hope all the participants get benefited in this particular topic. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for joining with us.
Thanks for your time and thanks for your patience and time.
Thank you so much, sir.
Have a nice day.
Yeah, thanks. Same to you.